Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today, we're talking about children and coping, and I have a special guest today, Amanda Armbruster. She is a licensed professional counselor. She has an Instagram and online presence called Take a Break Tots, and she works with parents and helps with all of the issues that come up with children. And lately, we've been talking a lot about coping because it's been a year or two and it feels like 30. And so I wanted to have Amanda on. I've seen a lot of your posts on Instagram in particular at Take a Break Tots, and it just resonated with me, how to speak to children, how to see what's going on in their world, and how to help them in the midst of all of the uncertainty. Because even if our children don't know a lot about coronavirus or racism or all of the other things that our country has been facing in the past 12 months, they can sense that things are not as they usually are. And I think that leads to a lot of question, and maybe parents aren't sure what to tell them or how to act like normal around them. I guess that's a really long-winded introduction, Amanda. Can you tell us a little bit about you and about Take a Break Tots, and then we'll jump into kind of the coping questions that I kind of was bringing up there?
Yes, for sure. No, I know. It's it's been a year, and we can all
Yeah.
talk about it. Sometimes that's our coping for sure. Yeah, so I am a therapist, a children's therapist. I've worked for the last decade with young children ages 2 to 10, and as a licensed therapist. And a couple years ago, I started Take a Break Tots as really a way to have the best of both worlds. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but I still wanted to work and use my degree and help families. And so the internet just provided that platform for me to do both of those things. So I work from home and I do consultations and school observations and support parents and caregivers, whoever you are, in your journey to create and grow good citizens. We want our children
Awesome.
to be good people. So that's what I
Well, what a
do.
neat
And
way to take what you do and meld that with the lifestyle that you want for you and your family. I think that's really cool.
yeah, thank you. And I mean, Instagram and online businesses and people leading by example have just paved the way. And it's been fun and it's been a journey. And like we're talking about, I'm learning all the different ways I can make it work and make it easier and more fun and reach more people. So it's great. I love it. My big reason for doing Take a Break Tots also, not just for my personal gain to work from home and be with my kids a little more, but to bring clinical information to the average household. I think the good work we were doing in therapy with the kids, and I have all this knowledge and resources and intervention, and I just think it could be so helpful for the average household with just those average struggles. We all have anxiety, our kids have tantrums and meltdowns and struggles, and there are resources and helpful ways to manage that. So I wanted to provide what I knew.
Fantastic. That is such a good
Yeah.
mission. And you're totally right. Like the average day to day can be really stressful. And if we can help teach some ways to mitigate that and enjoy parenthood more, then I think that is just such a worthwhile endeavor. So let's talk about coping because I think we're seeing a lot of children that are struggling to cope. What have you seen
Mhm.
from heard from parents, seen in children, ways that the all of the uncertainty and stress of 2020 and 2021 has manifested with children?
Well, it's behavior. I mean, they act out more, they're more irritable, they're frustrated. And parents, I think, are oftentimes confused by that. Our kids don't come out and tell us, things feel very uncertain right now, and I'm having a hard time with that. They will hit their brother. They will have a meltdown when you don't have the snack that they wanted. And so I think that can be very confusing, and that's just the way that our kids cope. They unleash, they're
Right.
trying to tell us in this only way they know how, that I'm hurting, I feel yucky inside, and I don't know what to do with it. And they just act out. So we're definitely seeing a lot more of that. I'd say my business has boomed in 2020 because of that parents are home with their kids and they're seeing probably some behavior that they've either never seen before, or more likely they're just seeing more of it, seeing it more often. So
Sure.
definitely the behaviors are, and it doesn't seem, parents like, it came out of nowhere. I don't understand, why this happened. And it's, well, they've been pulled out of school. Everybody's wearing a mask all of a sudden. They can't see their friends. They can't see their grandparents. We're sanitizing our hands at every turn. It's overwhelming and scary, and it's stuff that we adapt to very quickly, and our kids do too. Our kids are amazing. There's been such proof of that this year also. But also we need to speak to those changes and lay it out for them and tell them it's okay. I get it. I see it. I understand. Here's what we can do to help ourselves get through it.
Well, that is, I think that one thing that I'm thinking about as you're saying all that is an episode in our house where it was a couple months ago, and our 9-year-old, our kids have been at home. They're not seeing their friends. We're not doing all the things. And our 9-year-old asked if 50% of the world had died from COVID. And I was like,
Wow.
oh my goodness, I can't believe that you were
Yeah.
sitting with that. And I didn't think of that because that's not the case at all. And when I had COVID back in October, and when I told him, he just like burst into tears because he thought I was going to die or something bad was going to happen to him or to our family. And I think oftentimes we're like, well, I'll just protect them from this and just mention it. But that made me realize, okay, we just need to talk about it more frequently and not try and protect, but try and talk about it so that they don't feel that uncertainty and the fear of like, oh my gosh, I never thought that my 9-year-old thought that half of the world had died
Exactly.
from coronavirus. But that was where they're at, and now I can see where they would get that because they're not doing anything. They don't see anybody, and so they just assume that really bad things must be happening. So, I guess my question as we get started with this is, how do you talk in a age appropriate way with your children when you can see they're being impacted by the stress in the home, the stress in the world right now?
Yeah, I think you just have to bring it up as often as you can. Our kids, this is something that a friend of mine wrote a beautiful post, and I put it on my Instagram on Monday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, that our kids don't bring up these things. Like they don't know that it's, first of all, they don't know it's safe to talk about. Second of all, they don't maybe have the words for that. So that your 9-year-old gave you this gift, this nugget of information so that you knew what to work with. But most other children, especially younger kiddos, they're just going to hold it inside and be confused and not know that it's okay to bring up or how to bring it up or what to say about it. So we have to be the ones that we sit down, let's check in every, maybe once a week or so and just say, hey, okay, coronavirus is still in the headlines, or the insurrection on the Capitol. Let's sit down and talk about what happened. And I think, and this is a hard balance, and it really depends on your child, their age, their temperament, what they can handle. So that's up to you. And you can always work with a professional like me to figure that out. So I can't give verbatim a script to use because for my 3-year-old, it'll be different than for your 9-year-old. And, but yeah, they're seeing the headlines, they're hearing the news, they're hearing you on the phone with your brother or friend, and we talk openly and we think our kids aren't listening, but they are paying attention, and they
For
live in
sure.
extremes. I always have to do homework, I never get to do this, think about those things they always say. And then they hear these headlines that are oftentimes clickbait, that are a little bit extreme, and we hope they're clickbait sometimes, but they hear that, and so they think the world is dying. Everybody, coronavirus is an instant killer, and that's really
Right.
scary. And so your son, or I don't know, was it your son, your
Yeah.
9-year-old,
Hmm.
found out you had it? I mean, that's heartbreaking, but we've kind of laid that foundation, right? That it's something to be afraid of. It's something we have to, protect ourselves against. And but we don't talk about, and if I get it, you being a pediatrician, you're out there, maybe it would have helped to have a conversation. But again, hindsight's 2020, so
Oh,
forgive
for sure.
yourself.
Yeah, that
Don't
was
worry
a
about it.
that no, that was a good reminder for me that like it's
Yeah.
better to just be open and talk about those things than when something happens, then you kind of have to try and protect them from it again or just continue that. It's just like the more that you hold back, the more that it becomes a bigger and bigger thing.
Exactly. So maybe saying something like, I'm gonna wear my mask, I'm gonna wear my gloves, I'm gonna wash my hands and change clothes when I come home, and do all the things to try to keep us all safe and healthy. And if we get it, we will be okay. We've got good doctors and resources, and my body is strong, and we will be okay. And you don't want to, it's hard because it's like, I don't know if I'll be okay.
Right.
But that's how we can kind of support them and protect them in and you are okay. You made it through and you were healthy.
Right.
Um, hmm So,
Well, when you
yeah.
see behaviors as a manifestation of the stresses of the world, where do you start as a parent? You've recognized, okay, they're acting out a lot more. Let's just say my 4-year-old, she is acting out a lot more than she used to, and I'm not sure, if it's just a developmental thing or if it's because there's been more stress around the house and world lately. When you see those behaviors,
hmm
what's the best way to approach that, to help move through that and to I mean, I think parents often balance, well, I don't want to spoil them by giving into their demands. I don't want to set
hmm
them up to always expect these things, but there has been a lot of stress, so I want to give them a break. Like, how do you balance all of that, or what should a parent do?
Yeah, I think it can be hard, and especially because we tend to be reactive. When the behavior comes up, that's when we step in. So I'd first of all say to try to be a little bit more proactive. If you kind of watch this trend happening with your 4-year-old, and you're like, okay, something's really struggling, try to sit down and play with her a couple times a day or a few
Hmm.
times a week, as often as you can, and just be present and allow her some space to connect with you in a positive way. Because sometimes they get into that I feel yucky, and I just need your attention. So I'm going to pull you in this negative way. So providing that positive attention. And then you can also call it out. For a 4-year-old, I would even say, hey, you know what? I think things are feeling a little bit hard right now. I'm not sure how come. Maybe your body is growing and you feel you're having growing pains, or maybe you didn't sleep so great last night, or maybe you're thinking about all these changes that have been happening, and you just kind of lay it all out for her and hope you land on something. And
Sure.
just say, you know what? Even if it feels hard, I love you. You are a good kid and we will be okay. And then you just move through it as best you can. And sometimes um, they'll agree, they'll say yes, or they'll say no. It's none of those things. But really it may be. And that feels good that you've at least talked about it, that you've acknowledged that you've seen her in that. So it's helpful,
I
regardless
think
of if
that
you're right or hit the nail on the head.
it does, and it opens up the door for your child, even if they're 4, to say, oh yeah, I've been thinking a lot about grandma, or I've been thinking about my birthday party, or something that
Right.
you don't even know that they could be thinking about. I'll bring up my 9-year-old again, that he was,
Mhm.
so he has an iPod that he gets to listen to books on, and unbeknownst to us, the Weather Channel app was on there, which seems pretty innocuous. But when I noticed it one day buzzing on the counter, it like has a headline every day that gets notified.
Right.
So he's seeing all these headlines, and a lot of them are about like climate change and things like that. And
Yeah.
and so then he was getting worried about this. Things like, where did that even come from? Like, and
hmm
so if you ask and say it in an open-ended sort of way, like you phrased there, then it allows for that conversation and that information to be provided to you. Because maybe I thought he was mad because he didn't get to play with his friend or had to empty the dishwasher or something like that, but really he's mad because he's thinking about if the world is going to be on fire by the time that
Yeah.
he's an adult or something like that. And if we just stop and say, okay, it seems like something is different, is there something that you're
hmm
thinking about or something that's bothering you? Then that gives them the opportunity to kind of unspool to you when they're ready.
Again, yeah, it's about making it safe. It's about making it safe to talk about feelings or issues, whatever it may be. And I think something too, we want to be as specific as we can. So, maybe you're mad I told you to unload the dishwasher or take out the trash, but those are your chores. So I don't know. And then he says, no, and he comes up with, the climate change issue or something like that. So providing some examples versus, um, I wonder, are you feeling okay? What are you thinking right
Right.
now? It's hard for them to come up with it. So we just try to plant as much as we can and help them. Yeah. A 9-year
Yeah,
old's
that's
pretty
helped.
good about.
No, that's certainly
hmm
helped too, because sometimes you have to give them some ideas of like, well, maybe you're hungry. Have you eaten recently? Or
hmm
maybe you're upset because of the way that we didn't get to watch the show that you wanted yesterday, or something like that. Just give
Yes.
them some ideas, and then they like you said, they might say, no, actually, it's because of blank. But if you
hmm
just say what's wrong, they might not be able to articulate that very well or feel comfortable
Right.
sharing that if you haven't kind of made it easy for them to share those sorts of things.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. What's wrong? Like, I don't know. I just feel
Right.
weird. It's hard. So for sure. Yeah. And labeling those feelings, it's frustrating. Are you angry? Um, Maybe you're disappointed, giving them those really good, strong terms for their feelings. It's helpful.
Well, let's say that we've got a 4-year old, or let's do a different age. It's kind of fun to just move around in ages so that it applies to more people.
Mhm.
7-year old has a tantrum, just an explosion. What do you do in the moment, like as they're unraveling, that is
Yeah.
affirming and helps them through that tantrum? Because obviously, then you're not going to be saying, what's wrong or maybe this or that. But let's say our 7-year old is having a meltdown and throwing things or just whatever, however they behave when they have a meltdown.
Mhm.
How would you in that moment help to move them through that?
Yeah, so I like to let it ride. We want to keep them safe. So first of all, I'd say, "Oh, wow, you are having a hard time. You need to throw. Here is a bucket of foam balls that are safe for you to throw. Or let's go outside and hit your T-ball," giving them that physical outlet in a safe way
Mm-hmm.
so that they're not
Okay.
throwing paperweights or, kitchen tools or whatever it may be.
The remote, yeah.
And then the remote, yeah, exactly. Oh gosh. I would get siblings out of the way, say, "Okay, everybody, go play somewhere else." Like give that child the space without the audience and just say, "Okay, let it all out. You're having a hard time. I get it. I see you. Let's keep you safe. I'll keep myself safe. Tell me when you're ready." And then you just let it go. They will, I think our worry is that they're never going to stop. They're going to like destroy the whole house. But really,
Right.
when we try to step in, we try to stop them, that generally keeps it going versus if we just say, "Okay, you're having a hard time. I see you." They'll calm down. They'll get through it on their own. And they need to. They need to expel that energy. It's got to get out. It's got to have somewhere to go out of their body. And if we
Right.
try to, put the lid on the boiling pot, it doesn't help, right? So,
I
yeah.
really like
And
that
then,
analogy. I haven't heard that analogy before, but that makes perfect sense. Yes, you could put the lid on and, get them to pipe down for a moment or take it to their room or something like that, but it doesn't help with how hot the water is.
exactly. The water's still hot. And then, I think I've described this before, even like during the pandemic, especially, we're all kind of operating. I'll use my boiling pot metaphor a little more. We're all sitting on this a pot of water on the stove, and right now we're all at a low simmer, and it doesn't take much to crank the heat and get the pot boiling, right?
Right.
And the pandemic has done that to all of us, to every single person on this planet. Our baseline is agitated. We're not, operating from our normal space where the water's,
Right.
you put a cold pot of water on the stove, it takes a long time to boil over. But that simmering pot, you just crank it up a little bit and it sets it off. So we have to keep that in mind. And our kids are the same way. And, they're much more easily overwhelmed because they're new on earth and they don't quite understand and their feelings are big and overwhelming and their brains aren't fully developed. So it's just very, very hard for them. But yeah, we have to provide that space and let them get it out, or we're
So then
just, fighting.
after they've gotten it out, then where do we go from there how does discipline work? Not necessarily punishment, but just how does discipline
Right.
work from there? Wow, they had this explosion. Wow, they've now calmed down to a low simmer and they're cooling back down. Where do you go from there?
Yeah, I would definitely like what you mentioned, what you said about maybe they need a snack. Let's get them some water. Let's, meet all of those physical needs and be sure that we're operating from, the best place we can be in. So we're calm, our belly is full, we had some water, our mouth is, quenched. And then you can talk through what happened. So, okay, I think it was really frustrating that you were trying to build your Legos and your sister came in and was trying to touch everything. And, maybe it was a hard day and then that happened and it just, oh, you blew up, you flipped your lid, and you lost it. Man, that was hard. And we are okay. What could we do next time? You can um, call me for help. Maybe it's, your younger sister who has a hard time respecting your wishes. And so you need a grown up to come help. So call me, say, "Help, mommy," and I will come and help you. Or maybe it's an older sibling who should be able to respect boundaries and didn't. Again, call me and I will come help you. Mommy, give them those lines. And when they use those phrases, be there. If you help mommy
Sure.
is something you want them to say, then when you hear it, you better follow through on it. So just processing through it and giving some tools for the next time that may happen. And it's okay if they melt down. They're going to do that sometimes. It's not going to happen forever. Well, most grown-ups will have a meltdown every once in a while too. So,
Right. Which
it's
I try and
okay.
remind parents of too, is like adults get upset too. Like you don't have to go to your room just because you're upset, and adults get upset too. And we're just kind of trying to, reduce the temperature on the boiling pot so that it
Yep.
rarely gets to that simmer or boiling, and that's all we're trying to do. So I love the words that you use, which is next time. So instead of focusing on like what can I do to punish them for what they just
Mhm.
did, it's how can we handle this the next time it comes up. And that's something that I really focus on, is those two words of next time rather than this time, because I think a lot of parents get stuck on I have to punish them or they won't get it and they'll just keep doing it,
Yeah.
and it has to be a consequence that makes sense and is appropriately punishing and makes me feel vindicated in that moment. But if we can just stop that and realize, okay, everybody's trying to do the best they can. Not everybody has all the skills that adults should have. So we'll give them a little bit of grace and realize that we can just expect a little bit more next time, or the time after next time maybe, and then go from there.
Exactly. We just, like you said, we just want some coping skills, some, ways to handle frustration and these situations that just lowers the temperature so that we can get through it without blowing up, because, it's exhausting. It doesn't feel very good, especially as they get older. They get a little bit embarrassed by it, which then can sometimes exacerbate it. So for sure, we just want to help bring that temperature down. And, traditional punishment is, removal of privileges, yelling, spanking, timeout. They just don't teach what people think they teach. They just
Sure.
teach our children that mistakes are unacceptable. If you have a hard time, we don't deal with that. Removing privileges, oftentimes it's, if you don't calm down right now, no TV this afternoon. Well,
Right.
then that punishes the parent, honestly, because that's TV time's probably when you make dinner or something. And so you
Yeah.
just shot yourself in the foot. So being careful with that too. Yeah, like those natural consequences, like, what does that mean
Right.
sometimes? How do we, so just teaching next time, what could we do instead? And also recognizing that there will be a next time, first of all. And second of all, it's typical. It's okay. Our kids are going to, lose it sometimes. We do too. We can't expect them to keep it together all the time. It's hard. It's really hard work being a human being.
It is hard work. Well, I think that is just, a great point to finish up on, because I think that is something that parents need to hear, is that like it is hard to be a human being. It gets easier in some ways as you get older, but then there's a lot more, things to add to your boiling pot. Um, but that I think that we don't have to focus so much on trying to have consequences and trying to punish to get the behaviors that we want. And if we can drop that mentality, then we'll enjoy parenting more. Our children will
Yeah,
learn more, and it will be a more fun experience for us as parents and for our children, and we'll connect more. So it's been
exactly.
great to talk with you. I
Yes.
will make sure in the show notes put, take a break tots, which is your Instagram handle, and you have your website there as well. And I'm grateful for you giving us this valuable information and affirming for me that what we're doing is on the right track, and will help our kids in the long run. And I know that as we go into 2021, hopefully things will be better, and all of the pots will start to simmer a little bit less, and
Yes.
we'll just have a nice rest of the year, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you said, let's enjoy parenting. This time is so fleeting and it goes so fast. So just enjoy it.
Amen.
It can be fun for sure. And thank you for your platform and all the work that you're doing to help educate parents on the whole, spectrum of parenting. It's been great to learn from you as well. So thank you. Thanks for having
You
me.
bet. All right. Thanks a lot, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Before you go, will you hit the thumbs up like button, because that will make me feel great and it will make you feel great too. Hit subscribe so that you don't miss another episode. And if you have a question that you would like me to answer, just text me. It's 402-256-0768, and I will answer your questions live in an upcoming video. Keep up the good work.